Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, I'm joined by Tara, and we are going to count down our top 10 episodes of the Twilight Zone Season 1. This is the classic original series of Twilight Zone. We have reviewed all 36 episodes in Season 1, and we've both sat here and we have agreed upon our shared top 10, Already Cancelled top 10, if you will. And this is something that me and Connor have done for Star Trek. For Star Trek seasons, we've been doing top 5s, but Twilight Zone's so long per season that was enough for a top 10. I was explaining this in take one of this intro before Foxy, Tara's dog, decided to ruin it. Yeah, Foxy.
Sorry.
Foxy can speak for herself. You don't have to apologise on her behalf.
She is an adult.
I'll be having
She's like, what is she? Like, in her late 40s now, in dog years.
Man, she's older than us.
Yeah, she's wise.
Yeah. What are cat years? Because, I mean, Firefly and Wesker are 9 this year.
Cats never grow out of being a kitten.
Oh, I don't know if that's true. I think they reached the troublesome teens, quite frankly, and stay there. But, yeah, so I was explaining the first take of this intro that I always feel that if you're doing like a top 20, top 10, top 50, whatever, if you're adding stuff to make up the number, then your list is too big. What you should be doing is cutting things you like to get it down to the number so that it's a valid top 10 or whatever the number is. And I feel like we had to do that. We
definitely did that, yeah.
Yeah, we cut stuff away that we liked, meaning that this means something. It means we had to deliberate and come up with this. So, yeah, and as a bonus, at the end, we're going to do our top 3 worst episodes of the season as well. So look forward to the salty part later.
I don't like that, but
You don't want to do the worst section? You feel bad?
I don't like being negative.
I have hours and hours of footage that says otherwise. May I direct everyone to the review of Terminator 3 on the Atomic Cinema Experiment if you want 2 hours of Tara's unadulterated hatred. You may enjoy that.
That so bad. None of these are Terminator 3 level bad, I don't think. But
that's fair. Yeah. No, that's true.
There was bound to be some stinkers. Although, it was kind of tough coming up with the third one. For me, anyway.
Yeah, no, I had one ready for the third. We just disagreed on that one. I will say, if you want my most recent hatred at the time of recording, I did television for the multiverse earlier today with Connor, and I will say that this week's Supergirl made me particularly angry, and I even dropped some F-bombs even though I'm not supposed to. So
Here.
I know. Alright, top 10 episodes of Twilight Zone Season 1, the first of 5 of these for this particular show. We've loosely mentioned in the past that we might move on to the later Twilight Zone after this, or maybe go to something like the Outer Limits or whatever, but first of 5 of these original Twilight Zones. So, number 10 is a fairly recent one. We did this right towards the end of the season. This was the After Hours, which was episode... This is actually really... I should have wrote down the numbers next to these titles because, holy crap, a lot of scrolling here. So the After Hours is episode 34. So this was right towards the end of the season. And this was about mannequins, and there'll be mild spoilers in these, but we'll try not to spoil the twists as we go. So this is a department store. A woman has a creepy encounter, and it's kind of about mannequins coming to life after closing hours in this store. So I think what we said in the review, and I'll sort of reiterate just briefly here, is that it's a really cool, well-directed episode. It's probably the best episode for pure horror because it's actually got some really creepy scenes. The story, the point of the story, the message is maybe a bit murkier than some of the better episodes. It doesn't quite have the sort of the bite that some of those do when it makes its point. But from a just entertainment value perspective, really fun.
I agree. It is very, I don't want to say dark and moody, but there is kind of a horror-like atmosphere to it that Twilight Zone hasn't always been successful in, at least in this first season. We had a few horror episodes that were just kind of mediocre. So, but this one definitely does it the best.
Yeah, I'd say
well directed.
There's a couple of decent ones, but this is definitely the best one. And I think part of it's because it just lets itself be quiet. There's a couple of scenes where it's silent as something creepy is happening, and it's so effective. That's why that made number 10. Number 9, going much earlier in the season, is Walking Distance, which I believe was episode number 5. And this is about a man who is unhappy with his life, unhappy with his, business lifestyle, whatever he's doing. Me and Curtis reviewed Shadow of a Doubt today, the Hitchcock movie, and I was talking in that movie about there's a line where the woman's talking about her brother who has been very successful, and when she's asked what her brother does, she just says, "Oh, he's in business." He's in business, and obviously that movie. He's actually a serial killer who's been killing widows, and that's where all his money came from. So there's something shady there. But I feel like that logic is kind of what a lot of TV shows and stuff will do. They won't actually specify what the lead character does. It's just, he's in business. Mm-hmm. Just in business. He does business.
Yep. Got the big client.
Got the big client, yeah.
Board meeting tonight.
Now I'm starting to think of Birdemic when he's like, I caught the big fish. $1 million. Oh, that's great.
I've only seen the Riff Tracks version of that. Highly recommend.
Oh yes, I haven't seen Riff Tracks.
You're gonna have to watch Birdemic. Watch it with 3 of the funniest people on the planet.
I've actually seen the movie all the way through twice without any Riff Tracks assistance, so maybe I'll have to watch it with the Riff Tracks.
Cool.
Yeah, with other people. I didn't watch it on my own. Like you watch that with others to make fun of it. Obviously,
so you had your own Riff Tracks going.
Yeah. We were making fun of it. We were, and because the second time I did it with people who I was at uni with, and we were doing like TV and production. So we were going out and shooting things and recording things. So that was a very interesting audience to watch that movie with, because it's on a technical level, it's such a mess that we were all just like horrified. Like, what are they doing? No. But Walking Distance. In any case,
Walking Distance, yes. I remember really enjoying watching this one, because it's more so about like living in like your mind of how you miss like the old days when you were a kid and everything was great, and this guy's older now and he has some kind of an important job where he's under a lot of stress, and all he wants to do is tell his younger self to appreciate the time that he's in, because he will when he's older. And trying to reach into the past ends up hurting the memory, because he actually ends up hurting himself. And I think that's a really, nice message. And it was a good episode. And that was a pretty good one early on.
Yeah. I won't even add anything. I tangent enough. Really good episode. Number 8 is A World of Difference. I'll find the number in a second, but this is the one where the actor basically someone's at like an office job, and then someone yells cut, and it turns out the life he believed he had is actually a movie set. It's actually like a fake world, and he comes out of that world to find that he's actually in a messy divorce, that his career's gone down the toilet, that he's got a drinking problem, and it's about how bad this world is. And the episode's kind of wonderful in how ambiguous it is. We talked at length about that, about the ending and the review itself, and
the character never believes that the real world is his world. The entire episode, he still believes that he belongs back in the play.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, that's episode number 23 for the record. So I like this one a lot. I think it doesn't have like a huge. I mean, it's not a bad rating on IMDb, but it's definitely a bit lower than some of the other ones that we've got in our top 10.
No, but I think watching them on a weekly basis, we noticed a lot of the same similar themes coming up over and over again. And I think we both agreed that this one did it the best.
Yeah, there was a couple like this. And hell, even Walking Distance there is similar to, in a way, to one that we did recently as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's a lot of recurring themes in some of these episodes, and I think whenever there is a recurring theme, typically the best one is really good, and then the others are kind of like, well, you either did this better already, or you're going to do it better soon. Like one or the other. And they kind of feel like that. But really inventive, and it's clearly about someone, either this is true and there's something supernatural going on, or this is purely just about someone who is retreated into their fake world because the real world's too much to take. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that David Lynch is a fan of this episode, because I'll just say that Mulholland Drive maybe takes some inspiration. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
And I love that movie. So
Yeah. I
So.
I really like this one. I thought it was kind of a neat contrast because in the real life, he has like the life that people dream about having. He's a celebrity. He's
Mm-hmm.
got a mansion, and he's has a wife still, like this beautiful wife. But his life is garbage. Like he's trying to escape from it because it's fun to see that having everything isn't going to bring you happiness. Like he's happier in a simpler life,
Yeah,
trying to escape.
yeah, he's more middle class in the movie or whatever it is he's making. He's got a sort
Right.
of more normal life. He's got a more normal job. I mean, he's doing okay. He's got a big office to himself, so he's clearly not like a schlub. But he's
Yeah,
just not. He's not a
got the big
celebrity.
fish.
Yeah. I just had this weird thought in my head. I wanted this remade, but it's like Borat waking up and realizing he's Sacha Baron Cohen. I don't know why, but for some reason that makes me laugh thinking about it.
You just want more Borat.
Maybe.
Watch Wonder Woman. My life.
My wife. This is my sister. She is number 3 prostitute in all of Kazakhstan. God, that
I don't
movie.
think you can make a Borat movie now, even though it wasn't that long ago. Nobody
Borat.
would allow
Yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, it is purely satire, which is the thing. I mean, some of the jokes probably do go too far,
Right.
but like you can't deny like that movie worked for being shocking. I think the problem with doing a Borat 2 is that it'd just be trying to top itself, and I don't think that would work. I think it's actually better just being on its own forever. Like try to do it again, I think wouldn't work.
Sacha Baron Cohen's doing just fine in his Stars or Showtime show that he has right now.
Oh yeah, he's got stuff going. He's on Netflix as well. He just did a miniseries on Netflix.
Oh, I should check it out.
He was a spy. It was a true story. But yeah, so that was number 8. Number 7 is The Last Flight, which is episode 18 of the season. This is a pilot from World War...
One?
It is, yes, World War One. I was just double checking what World War was. He comes to present day at the time, 1960, and he's confused. He lands in an air base, and everyone's like, well, this is weird, and they look into him. And it's basically about him like finding out what happened in the war, and it's ultimately, he's a bit of a coward. The reason why he came back is because he sort of fled the airfield that he was fighting in, and kind of ended up going through it's very The Final Countdown. If anyone's ever seen the movie The Final Countdown, which we've done on the Ace, is very similar in premise to that. I mean, it's the reverse way around. It's going to the present instead of going to the past, but it's very similar in premise.
But it is a jump of 40 years, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But here's the thing. I think this episode is better than The Final Countdown. I think it has more of a dramatic character arc for the main character, which I think is really fulfilling.
Yeah, there's real stakes. The Final Countdown, although I think we both enjoyed watching the movie, like it kind of chickens out of going with the going towards the obvious stakes in the or dilemma, and just avoids it altogether. But this one, the character has to make a decision that he knows will probably kill him, and he has a full arc of finding courage in the 25-minute episode.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's good.
I think this one, I mean, it's rated fairly highly on IMDb, but watching this one, I'm like, damn, that should be always like mentioned when we're talking about the best episodes, because it's really freaking good. It's got a good character story. The premise is fun and proper science fiction, and
the side characters are pretty good too. I like the I don't know if he was like a general or something in the office. They were pretty good.
I like them trying to like prove him wrong and figure out like is he telling the truth kind of thing. And even the ending, like there's a sort of coda that I won't spoil, but there's a coda with other characters, and typically Twilight Zone doesn't do a lot of that, where there's other characters who have a scene after the main characters kind of left the story. And even that I thought was like, I like this scene, I like what it's doing. And so Last Flight, I highly recommend The Last Flight. So number 6 is The Lonely, and this takes us back earlier in the season to episode number 7. And it's a theme that the season's had a couple of times, which is someone on their own. In this case, it's an asteroid, which was actually something we were joking about a lot in the first half of the season. It kind of went away by the second half, but the first half had a lot of episodes where someone was on an asteroid or landed on an asteroid, and they never needed like suits to breathe, or it was always just, no, there's an atmosphere, it's fine.
Nope, just looks like the Mojave Desert.
Yeah. But it's a prisoner who's been sentenced to live alone, and every so often this little ship comes with like a couple of guys who bring him supplies. Here's your food for the next 6 months or whatever it is.
Yeah. And it's
And
like Christmas Day for him
yeah, he's
because
counting
he gets
down.
to interact with somebody.
He's counting down. He's determined, and he's upset that he can only stay for like 10 minutes because we have to leave because the orbit and whatever other things are changing, so they have to go. And
Yeah.
he so that's one time these people, this guy, because the guy seems to kind of like him. This guy who brings him his food, and he's like, "Look, I brought you something to help because I know you're lonely," and it's a lady robot.
It's a sex bot.
It's a sex. The episode does avoid ever really addressing the sex part of it, but it's a really good story about him falling attached to this lady robot and how he deals with this. And I'm really into this sort of stuff as an idea, like the idea of dealing with the isolation, the loneliness, and what that does to a man, and just
Right. And just the idea of him having to, you know, I mean, we all see Wilson as a character on Castaway. Like in this person is actually being played by a human, so it's a lot easier to see her as a person too. And I think the episode does a pretty good job of, like, we all sort of feel bad for her situation in the end as well. Like we don't want, even though we know what she is, like
yeah,
she's important to him, because he really sells it.
Yeah, you could argue it's equally about how we attach human qualities to inanimate object. Obviously, this one is a bit murkier because it's so human looking and so lifelike and all these other things. But Castaway.
Yeah, of course he's going to see her as human by the end.
Yeah,
maybe even after like an hour.
What I love about it is
you
you can see what the dramatic big beat of the ending is going to be quite early. You can sort of see it coming, but it doesn't affect the moment when it does come. And he has to realize what choice he's going to have to make, and it really hurts. So I think that's what makes this one so good. Plus, we got to make tons of sex bot jokes in the review, so that's always fun. So next up, number 5. So we're into the top 5 now. Number 5 is episode 14 of the season, and that is Third from the Sun. And I really thought about what I was saying there because I
almost did it.
because when we were running down the list before we started, I said Third Rock from the Sun without thinking about it. So this one is great, and it's one that we can't really say without. We can't say why it's great without spoiling the ending, so we can't really say too much. I will say I kind of figured out where it was going earlier on, and
and I'll say I'm dumb and I didn't know. So it got me.
I don't think that makes you dumb.
This one I remember having a lot of Dutch angles too.
Yeah,
so it was like the first time we had seen something like that in this show, where it was just like, it's our world, but something's really off here. You're just always imbalanced. It's really well directed. I didn't care too much for the villain, but I still really liked
I had fun with the villain. I might have pushed this a placement higher than it would have been because I was a bit more of a champion for it. I really like the twist in this. Now, admittedly, I think season 2 has an episode that has a very similar twist, and I also like that episode if I remember right. I mean, it's been a long time, but that twist stuck out to me. But I'm really excited about getting there. But I think this one has a really simple, it's got that kind of Cold War kind of suspense of we're being watched, the commies are around kind of vibe to it, but it puts a science fiction twist onto it with where it goes. So really good because they're all scared, because the reason basically the plot is that a family and another couple, the two husbands work at this place that builds weapons, and they're basically worried that the nuclear holocaust is about to happen. They're worried that Judgment Day, that the Skynet's about to turn on, and everyone's going to die. So they're trying to basically escape the planet. That's the plan. So super fun stuff. Number 4 is the very first episode of the season, and that is Where Is Everybody? And kind of like The Lonely, it goes back to isolation and someone on their own. Although this one has a fun twist as to what's actually going on.
This one really set the bar.
Yeah, it set the bar for you because the first thing you ever did. That was the first episode of anything you ever recorded for. How do you feel 36 episodes later? How do you feel about that first performance?
I think I was a little bit nervous, but turns out you're all right.
I mean, who wouldn't be nervous talking to me for the first time? You're only human.
Yeah, you did. intimidate me a bit. But it's mostly the idea of the internet and putting myself out there that intimidates me.
Uh,
Yeah, it's but this one really, yeah, set the bar, and it was one that we kept referring back to during other reviews, and it's really well done.
and there's a lot of nice little hints throughout the episode that once you get to the ending, you realize what it's about. Because it's about this man.
Yeah, this one does a really good job with the puzzle.
Yeah, it's about this man who's is wandering through a small town, aka a back lot somewhere on a studio, and
Universal Studio backlot.
yeah, it does look like that actually. If I think I even pondered at one point it might even be the Back to the Future town square before it maybe built some of the parts of it.
Is, yeah. It's a very strong pilot. It was also just a very strong episode of the Twilight Zone in like how it's set up, what you can expect from the series. It had a cool atmosphere to it.
Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is Time Enough at Last, which is episode 8 of the season, and one of the most famous episodes, starring Burgess Meredith from the Rocky franchise. He's a guy who loves books. He's a married man. His wife never lets him read. His employer never lets him read. Although, to be fair, he shouldn't be reading when he's at work. But it is kind of weird that his wife never lets him read. And he is...
Yeah, she's malicious about it too.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like a parent trying to like keep their kid away from the tablet, the iPad or whatever for too long because they think they're playing too many games. Mm-hmm. But it's books. Like, parents would be delighted if a kid read a book these days. It'd be like, you're into books? Yeah. Oh, my kid's great. My kid's going to be a scholar. But of course, the world ends and he's left alone with time to read books. And I won't spoil the ending, even though it's a really famous episode and you probably know what it is. But yeah, it's really good. It's well remembered for a reason. Meredith is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's got really cool sets to it as well. Like the post-bomb world that he's in is really cool. It's almost like a Star Trek, Star Trek show.
It feels a bit bigger even.
But what was that?
It feels a bit bigger even, because Star Trek often would only have like one little spot. Whereas I feel like this actually goes through a few locations.
Yeah, and it's got like broken down cars and stuff. It's cool. Like I like the design of it. It's also kind of got a really good commentary about like people who
just keep going.
Murder my cat. About people who forget about art and forget about like books and make fun of those who still hold on to it. And maybe one of the reasons why the world ended was because people ignored the good things in life. Yeah. Anyway, I like this episode a lot. It definitely deserves to be in the top 3. And I think most lists will probably have this as number 1, but
one or two. I feel like our number 2 is also one that may be a number 1 on a lot of lists.
Yeah, I think our top 3 are probably predictable.
Yeah. but our number 2...
Just the order that's going to be different.
Yeah, our number 2 is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Now I want to make something clear, because there was some controversy when our review of this went out. I was getting lambasted in the comments for being nitpicky, but I maintain I had one small nitpick, and it wasn't a big deal, and Tara made it a big deal. Tara inflated it and made everyone hate me, and I will not have it. It's a great episode with a minor nitpick. That's all I said.
I'll defend you. You're the one who said, I think this should be number 2 over Time Enough at Last, which I disagreed with. But so clearly,
I'll defend you, but I want everyone to know that you disagreed with me.
I mean, I'll defend you that you clearly like the episode a lot. So
this episode is basically about paranoia. It's about just a street, Maple Street specifically, and all the residents start to query why all of their power is out and get very paranoid and suspicious of one another and get worried that they're spies. Much like we said earlier with Third from the Sun. Shut it.
Love it.
We talked about how it was set in the Cold War, how the idea of communists being among us, although this time it's like literally they think it's aliens. But it's clear that aliens are a stand-in for communists in that sense.
Yeah. It's definitely a Red Scare.
So, but the
episode.
drama of it's good. It juggles a lot of characters in a 25-minute episode, which is very impressive. So,
Mhm.
no, good. Moods
Yeah, you're right. And
on point.
it is an important lesson for today still. This one I think really holds up.
I think all the best ones do. I think a lot of the good
Yeah.
ones have messages that are still applicable
These
today.
are a cautionary tale about mom mentality and being the first to accuse somebody of something based on fear.
Because
It's a really great episode.
human beings have not improved in 60 years, is what I've learned, basically. So that's number 2. And number 1, which I don't think will be a surprise if you remember a review for this one. That was 22, by the way. Monsters of Due Maple Street was number 22. But our final episode, number 1, is A Stop at Willoughby, which is episode 30 of the season.
Mm.
And this is easily the darkest episode in the season and the series so far.
Easily.
And it's one that we kind of respected for that. Now, I actually think it does have a little bit of a pacing issue here or there. But despite that, when we sat down to do this list, I didn't even disagree with Tara. I said, no, it is number 1. I'm not going to fight you because it is number 1. It might not be perfect, but it's number 1.
That's okay. I think
Yeah.
I think it has a message. The message is clear and it's sad, but it's beautifully made and directed. And I love the lead performer. And when it hits you at the end, it hits you hard. Like, oh,
Yeah,
I
basically,
should probably call my friend. Just like, hey, how are you?
I mean, basically, like, this is an episode where halfway through, I'm like, this episode's actually kind of dark if you stop and think what it's really about, because it doesn't come across
Yeah.
as dark at face value necessarily. It just comes across as, a Twilight Zone episode. But then the final, few minutes actually make it clearly dark is what it actually is about. Like, it actually brings the darkness to the forefront, which I wasn't expecting. So I'm impressed by that for a start. But it's about depression. It's about a midlife crisis. It's about all these things. And yeah, I don't want to say the word that it's really about because I don't want to spoil it. But
Yeah. I think it's it's another example of like the one with the actor who's trying to escape his life and live in a fantasy world. But this one, really set the bar on those types of episodes, even if it is a bit of a retread.
mhm.
I mean, it's episode 30, so they had plenty of practice.
Well, that's what you could
And
argue.
this,
You could argue it took it and improved upon it. I think the problem with a lot of
yeah,
the repeats is that they're often the good ones first, and then like the next 2 or 3 attempts are all worse. It's
yeah, they're
like,
just trying to,
well, why did you do
they're
this
just trying to
again?
retread what worked, and it just
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah.
But that is our number 1. Comfortably. So just to recap here, our number 10 was The After Hours, number 9 is Walking Distance, number 8 is A World of Difference, number 7 is The Last Flight, number 6 is The Lonely, number 5 is Third from the Sun, 4 is Where Is Everybody, 3 Time Enough at Last, 2 The Monsters Are Due in Maple Street, and number 1 is A Stop at Willoughby. That is our top 10 episodes of Twilight Zone Season 1. So hopefully, if you're looking for a best of to go and watch, maybe that's giving you some recommendations. Because unlike other TV shows, you can just cherry pick episodes if you want, because it's a complete anthology. They're all standalone.
Yeah.
So
Now here's a list of ones you can skip.
here's our worst 3 episodes of the season. So a little bit of a bonus just to be a bit salty at the end. Number 3 is one that I was fighting for because I hated this episode, and that is Perchance to Dream. Probably the first episode of the season that I disliked. This was episode 9. So it comes after one of the best. It comes after Time Enough at Last. It's like the very next episode. So not a good
Yeah, it
placement
probably
for
hurts
it.
it a little bit.
It's very Nightmare on Elm Street, but I never really felt like it had much of a point. It felt like it was just doing random things. I found it kind of a chore to sit through, and Tara didn't hate it as much as I did, but I was not happy with it. I'll leave it at
I
that.
liked it, but I had problems with it, and I actually don't disagree that it's probably one of the, lesser ones. We've had some mediocre ones that maybe I would put lower than this, just because this one had interesting ideas, like the Freddy Krueger style villain, and I did like that. It's that once she invades your dream, like every time he goes to sleep, the dream picks up where it left off and it keeps going until his eventual death, which is why he's like staying awake. But I think the problem I have really is the final scene, um, where she's also there in real life, makes it confusing.
Tara forgetting the emailed spoilers that I said at the start of the video.
Yeah, well, sorry.
It's a bad
I
episode.
said you could skip this one.
It's only mailed spoilers, Tara's. And the final scene when this happened. Number 2 is a very recent episode. This was the second last episode of the season, and that is The Mighty Casey, which is about a robot that is put on a minor league baseball. I don't know if it's minor league. I think it's a major league team, but it's like the lowest of the major leagues. Like it's the lowest team in the league.
Yeah.
And they start to win because this picture's a robot. So there's a bit of a little tale. It's a bit of a ridiculous misfire of a comedy that uses a lot of sound effects and is just kind of silly.
A lot of slide whistle.
A lot of slide whistle on the soundtrack, which is very weird and kind of out of tone for Twilight Zone. Not that they can't vary a bit, because it's not like, it's not like a Stop
We've
at
had
Willoughby.
some comedy ones that have worked for me.
Nice Place to Visit was amusing.
Nice Place to Visit was pretty good. That almost made our list.
Yeah. The Chaser, I think, was kind of amusing. That was the
I like that one.
Love Potion one, yeah. But you're the one who fought for this to be above Perchance to Dream, so you can make your case.
I just don't think the comedy works in this one. Because I don't think it's appropriate to put a sex robot on a baseball team. It sort of like goes towards the direction of Measure of a Man, and then completely takes like a left turn and
what's funny?
Skips that whole interesting issue.
What's funny is the actor who was in The Lonely is also in this, and they both deal with a robot. Yes. And what's funny is that he made it onto both our top 10 best and worst 3 episodes in the same season. So credit to him for getting that honor.
Oh yeah, he gets a fuzzy, whatever that might be.
That sounds like something dirty. He got a fuzzy.
I mean, he was in both Sexbot episodes, so. So
number 1, our worst episode, and this is not a surprise, I don't think, if you remember a review for this. I think Tara did feel stronger on this than I did. I didn't like it, but Tara was like livid.
I did not like that episode.
She came into the
this
review.
Episode was bad.
Yeah. She was not pulling punches. She did not enjoy the the slot machine that was after him. It was called the Fever.
Yeah, pretty bad.
About gambling addiction.
We have a cautionary tale about what happens, the dangers of gambling addiction, where the slot machine will call your name in a horrible voice and stalk you to the point where it's like waddling down a hallway.
Now, I don't remember what the voice sounded like, but I think I said I sound like a Dalek on the review. I think I remember saying that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of close to the Alpha 60 from Alphaville too.
Yeah.
Only there's no French accent.
Honestly, if I was to pick between them, I'd rather listen to the Slot Machine. I think the Alphaville one was worse, but it's a fair comparison.
The slot machine isn't swallowing.
Yes. Nope.
During the voicing.
Yeah, other than that the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the Fever. So that's our number 1 worst. So that is a top 10 and top 3 worst of the first season of the Twilight Zone. We'll be doing this after each season, which means next week we return with another episode where we begin season 2.
Whoa!
How exciting is that? How exciting!
It's the beginning of the end of the last 4 seasons, and then I'm allowed to leave, right?
No,
then I can go home.
No, then we have Twilight Zone 80s to do. So you're here for the long haul.
What did I sign up for? What have I done?
You signed in blood. Besides, then you said I want my own show, and then I gave you the ace, and then you bossed me around on that. So,
well, it is my show. I'm allowed to do what I want.
That is us. That has been our top 10. You can, of course, let us know what you think of our picks. Give us your top 10 of season 1, your favourite episodes in the comments. You can like and subscribe. You can ding the bell on YouTube. Make sure you get the notifications. You can rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from. Give us 5 stars. Helps us out a lot. More people will find us that way. If you want to support us financially, you can do that at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Wait, Tara does this bit. Tara, continue.
Aw, you're doing so good.
Yes, but people like a train wreck, so please.
All right, yeah, you can go to patreon.com/MilefootTV, where you can donate as low as $1 per month, and that dollar gets you bonus episodes of other shows we do, including the ACE, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is my show, and it's great.
I guessed on it,
So,
yes.
yes, and Peter is my guest every week.
Yes, which is why the one we're recording right after this video, I'm going to make Tara do the intro for, since it's her show. So we'll see how that goes. But that,
We'll see how that goes.
but that has been this week's Twilight Zone episode, not review, of course. But we'll be back with season 2, episode 1 next week. So look forward to that. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. And keep watching television, guys, in the Twilight Zone.